You have to call me Dragon.
You have to call me Nighthawk.
Hey guys, welcome to Canines for America. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to talk about how an organism responds to its environment by using the three pillars of the four tempers, its life experiences, and the environment that it's surrounded by. Let's get started. Now, every action has a reaction. When working with canines, we have found that there are 6 behavioral reactions. They are the active defensive reaction, the passive defensive reaction, the orienting reaction, the food reaction, there's the search dominating reaction, and then the human attachment reaction. So if we want to kind of dive into the very first one, which is the active defensive reaction, we found that canines can exhibit 4 different varying degrees within that active defensive reaction. The first one would be excessively aggressive behavioral reactions. Moderately aggressive, we have the aggressive cowardly reaction within that, and then we have the non-aggressive at all. A good way to envision that is if we do take The Godfather and Michael Corleone. He's returning back from the war. He's very proud. He's wearing his uniform. He's courting his girlfriend, hopefully to be his wife, introducing her to the family. But then the environment that Michael kind of gets in, and his experience now in that environment, he has to deal with his father being shot, which starts to change that Sangui. That Sangui is a 7, but that stimulant helps him fire to a 10. Now that traumatic event of his father being shot is starting to shape Michael a little bit. And we start to see Michael slowly start to change, which now puts Michael into that deep end of him embracing the dark side of the fundamental disposition.
You're gonna search me when I first meet them, right? So I can't have a weapon on me then. But if Clemenza can figure a way to have a weapon planted there for me, then I'll kill them both.
It was always there because it's innate. Being a Sangui person, our Sangui canine, the light side, by us using and identifying that and using the appropriate methods and keeping them in a positive environment, allows the light side to shine. But in Michael's case, the dark side starts to take over, and Michael allows the dark side to take over. He then embraces the dark side, and therefore you get the new version of Michael Corleone, which is now the head of the family, but the dark side has now taken over, all based off of his environment and his experiences within that environment. So we have to be careful, even when working with, especially our chloric canine, but even our Sangui canines, we can't allow them, by the way we use our methods, and we don't go down to the dark side. And the way we do that is by balancing our canine, and by balancing the canine, that central nervous system, we do that by using the contrastive method and by using the mechanical method appropriately. That will help us accomplish our goal with a canine that possesses an active defensive reaction, and that they're moderately aggressive within that. The second one that we can deal with is a canine that has a dominant passive behavioral reaction in their defensive reaction. What do we want to use? What are our tools, the training methods that we can apply to that dominant passive canine, which is more of a melancholic canine? We want to use food. Food is a phenomenal tool to use in helping shape a positive fundamental disposition, unlocking it into the light side. Contrastive is still, it's always my favorite training method to use, the contrastive, which is a combination of food and mechanical paired together. And then the imitative method. Imitative method is a great way to apply that to a dog that has a dominant passive defensive reaction. And our goal at the end of the day, what are we trying to achieve? You know, we've talked about that in our other videos. What is our goal? What are we trying to achieve with that organism? Our goal that we're trying to achieve with a melancholic canine is we really want to overcome the potential of timidness, cowardness, to become influenced in that canine. That's more of that fundamental disposition that canine, that dark side that canine can go into. They become very cowardly. They become very timid, which can be a scary canine because we don't know how they're going to react in different stimuli that is introduced to them. But by using the food reward method, by using the contrastive method, by using the imitative method, we can develop intensity and we can develop courage within that melancholic canine. And the greatest situation, the greatest environment to put them into, an experience to give them would be obedience. Doing games that require obedience. Like I said before, the melancholic is very, very loyal. Very loyal. They love to play games that require obedience. Therefore, they can show their loyalty. So those are two: melancholic, sanguine, innate. We can't do anything about. But now this is how we can shape those behavioral reactions and make sure that we stay on the light side and that we don't go to the dark side. Now, the third reaction that we want to talk about is a canine that has a dominant food reaction. Dominant food reaction, you have that dog that's highly motivated, fires incredibly at a high level when food is presented. Good training methods for a dog that has a high dominant food reaction is obviously going to be food. Our mechanical method, the contrastive method, the imitative method. A great way that you can use food is for general aggression training. For example, you have that dog that is moderately aggressive, and we want to start using them we want to teach them the guard command, for example. A great tool that I'll use is I will go to the butcher and I will find the greatest, biggest, meatiest bone I can possibly find, and that bone, that meaty bone, is going to be used in teaching the guard command, because that dog is going to be highly motivated. They're going to want to gnaw on that bone. It's a great way to present the reward for the dog doing the correct action and controlling that central nervous system, and being able to teach on how to take food, but also releasing the food as soon as they get that quick taste, which we'll be showing you in different videos as we continue on in our season in showing you these things. But the dominant food reaction is another one to really identify, but you can really use that food to your advantage in controlling and balancing that central nervous system. Another behavioral reaction that we'll find in our dogs, in our organism, is a dog has a very strong orienting reaction. Orienting reaction means the environment is a very strong stimulant to the canine, which becomes very distracting. The dog shows a reaction to the environment constantly.
Perhaps you desired squirrel.
You go on a walk and everything that dog starts to see, everything that dog is exposed to, really starts to overpower and overcome that dog's central nervous system. we find that dogs that have strong orienting reactions are dogs that are raised indoors in very extreme controlled environments, puppies that are raised indoors. We'll get into that later with our Malinois project that we start to talk about. Bella, Tiny, Crook, Rosie, those were all canines that are part of the Malinois project that were raised indoors for the project. All developed heavy dominant orienting reactions. Now, how do we deal with a dog that has strong orienting reactions to their environment where it takes over their central nervous system? A great way will be the imitative method. The imitative method, that's Crook setting everybody off. The imitative method is strong to use. Another tool that we want to use in starting to shape a strong orienting reaction would be a lot of classwork time. Getting the canine into the classroom, doing a lot of our obedience work, a lot of our trained skill set, even a lot of our intermediate skills are great to be perfected inside the classroom. We can control that environment, we can build that canine's confidence, we can achieve the success in the classroom, and then we can start to take it to another level of going out into the environment as we start to control things as well. Experience, right? The experiences of that puppy that was raised in a closed, in a kind of a glass house, we like to call it, that was raised in that glass house, doesn't have the confidence or the experience necessary to be able to perform the skill sets or the actions that we request out into the environment. So we're kind of behind a little bit from a developmental standpoint, but once we start to get going by applying the correct training methods, we're going to catch up, we're going to close in on that threshold very quickly. In the beginning, the threshold is going to show us that, oh wow, we're behind the ball, we're behind the curve, but as we get going, we will make up that space fairly quickly. So it's never a concern, but usually with our young dogs, we see it a lot. It is something that overpowers their central nervous system, but as the dog grows and we develop them in their age, as they become a young adult, we're able to overcome a strong orienting reaction. And again, just sort of to understand the orienting reaction, the dog is, the central nervous system becomes very unbalanced in strong stimuli. So anything in that environment, a semi-truck driving by quickly where it was quiet on the dog on a walk, that semi-truck might be that overpowering stimulant that might start to throw that central nervous system in a neurotic state. Another dominant behavioral reaction that we have is the search behavioral reaction. A dog that is very dominant in their searching capabilities. Every time you take them outside, you can just see they are searching everywhere. They're very, it just leads on everything. Their searching capabilities. It just overpowers everything else that you see. So great methods to train a dog that has a heavy search behavioral reaction will be using the olfactory. I think you saw in one of our previous episodes, we started to get into our tracking games, our tracking 101, and all the family of tracking videos that we're going to do that are paired with that tracking 101 is developing the olfactory. And we started to show you how we start to develop the olfactory by using food. That's a great way, by showing a track, by developing that dog to get their nose down, because they are also very visual. They're very highly visual. They start to use all their senses. So they want to sometimes keep their head up and look. That's why we want to develop the olfactory along with developing the visual. And then there are also dogs that are very strong with the search behavior, are also very strong with their auditory. So we want to develop those three, the olfactory, the visual, and the auditory, help in dogs that have a dominant search behavioral reaction. Now the final behavioral reaction is dominant human attachment. So the dominant human attachment reaction if your canine is strong within that, and there could be a plethora of reasons, why that is the case. The training methods that we want to apply to a dominant human attachment reaction would be the mechanical and the contrastive. Now, again, you have to read the canine and also understand what's the job you want your dog to do. To some people, they dream of having a dog that has a dominant human attachment. And in some cases, it could be, a very difficult thing that we need to overcome. I.e., you have, for instance, part of our Malinois project, we have a canine that was a narcotics canine, and would do phenomenal work with the handler, with the original trainer. But as soon as that dog was handed off onto a law enforcement officer to be worked, the dog had zero interest whatsoever of performing that work for that handler. So it was very interesting to see, to observe, to understand. In one case, the dog was phenomenal with just its single handler, but if it was passed off to a multiple handler, different handler, the work job couldn't be accomplished. It wasn't that the dog wasn't capable of doing that work, where the dog obviously shown in classroom setting, in different environment settings, that it could do the work, but as soon as it was passed over, it no longer cared to do the work. So that was able to be trained out of that dog over time once it was, identified, but there was always a reason why. It was very easy to identify why that dog did have a dominant handler, human attachment reaction. So it was very easy for us to identify that, and we'll be able to explain that in further detail when we get into the Malinois project and we start showing you guys and telling you guys about such a unique project that we've been able to do over the past 5 years and are still continuing to do. Some things just to kind of, understand at the end of the day, what does change that behavioral reaction. We talked about, the 4 tempers, identifying the 4 tempers, that 50% that comes along with it and its fundamental dispositions, but then understanding the dog's age and understanding a puppy. If we want to talk to the very simplicity of a puppy, their passivity with a puppy, the fear, the cowardness, their central nervous systems are very weak to stimuli. So we have to be very, very careful with our puppies. And what is our training program? Identifying their temperament as a puppy and then applying the correct training method to that puppy, so therefore we can create the behavioral reactions that we want to create. Therefore we're able to take that young dog as they develop, and they only develop into the light side of their fundamental dispositions, and we don't take that puppy as they grow into a young child, into a young teenager, an older teenager, etc., and they gravitate to the dark side of their fundamental dispositions. Because if we go down that train, if we go down that hallway, it becomes more and more difficult to train that older dog, that older organism into positive conditional reflexes, into accepting different types of stimuli and applying that into a positive reaction. Because again, we have to understand, guys, with every action, there's always going to be a reaction. So every action, there's a reaction, but what we just want to see is we want to see positive reactions to the action. By now applying the correct temperament diagnosis, and by applying the right environment, and then by applying the right experience within that environment, I believe we are able then to achieve holistically just a great, phenomenal organism that is able to give back to society and give back to its family. Just the highlights that come with being such a positive influence within society. And the last thing I guess we would want to take in training, if you're looking, hey, what is the most ideal dog to train? We found at the end of the day that 12-month to 24-month up to 30 months is when a dog is, after 30 months, that dog is now fully formed and fully developed. And I think at that point, that dog is ready to go into its work. That dog is ready to be a positive role model within society. But up until 30 months, that dog is still learning, that dog is still developing, and there's so many things that we need to do to help that organism achieve success. All right, guys, just wrapping up our behavioral reaction video. We now think that we've kind of started to lay the basis to this season for you guys, the audience. Just now make sure you go back if you haven't. In order for this system kind of to really work for you guys, you got to take in that temperament diagnosis, the 4-temper video, really start to understand that, and then take in the training method video. And then now adding it with the behavioral reaction video. Those 3 things is a great combination to really get you guys off on that footing for you to be successful out into your training goals. Because with those 3, it really starts to lay the foundation. But at the end of the day, it all revolves around the organism's experience and the organism's experience within the environment. At the end of the day, you understand now that 50% of the innate aspect of your organism, but now with behavioral reactions is now showing you how we can now shape that 50%, how we can mold that 50% by using our training methods. With every training method, with every action causes a reaction. So by basically using the correct training methods on the correct temperament will elicit the appropriate behavioral reaction, which will give us the light side of the fundamental disposition and not allow that organism to, based off of its experience in the environment, go through and go down to a dark side of its fundamental disposition. So make sure you guys continue to rewatch the temperament diagnosis videos. I know we only have the 4 tempers right now that we're bringing you guys into as the audience. I know we've been getting some great comments and questions about, are there mixed temperaments? Absolutely, so stand by. We definitely will be doing a mixed temper video, but first we feel you guys got to kind of get the basic understanding of the 4 temperaments before we get into mixed temperaments. But then make sure you really understand the training methods that we want to apply. We will dive into a deeper rabbit hole on those training methods, but now we wanted to give you guys the behavioral reactions. Again, as every action causes a reaction, and if the environment isn't correct, if the experience within the environment isn't correct, you can see very quickly how we can take that canine through a rabbit hole that we just don't want to go. So we want to make sure that we are creating the most positive environment, the most positive experiences at all time as we shape that 50% to give that organism such a positive outcome. But again, remember guys, it's the job of the coach, it's the job of the teacher, it's the job of the developer to create all of that. What you get is what we put into it. So the end outcome of that organism, the success of that organism is all dependent on us as teachers and as developers to recognize, to understand, to adapt, to change, and to create the experience and the environment necessary for that growth of that organism to be to be able to be successful in society. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you come back next week, as we'll have 2 more new episodes taking you, further in our academic game plan that we have set up for you guys. And please make sure that you like and subscribe.